County Public Works Committee meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, and just a reminder to the audience, if you haven't signed in, you need to sign in, please. Ask the clerk to call roll, please.
Ron Kinsley,
Here.
Mark Helwig,
Here.
Ed Peters,
Here.
Dale Olson,
Here.
Brian Bissonnette. We have quorum.
Let the record indicate we have a quorum, certification, compliance, open meeting laws.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. We're going to do a little changing on the agenda. After the minutes, I asked if we can do number 8, the highway. And after number 8 of the highway, ask if we can do number 10, the courtroom remodel, if that's acceptable to the committee.
Yes, me, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Olson, second by Mr. Peters to approve the agenda with the changes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 6 is consideration approval of the minutes of the previous meeting on July 7th. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed public comment. I apologize. Public comment. Ms. Zomer?
Linda Zilmer, I have 2 items that I submitted on the form to you. The first one is a future agenda item. The Sawyer County Committee that was appointed to update the county's comprehensive plan is forwarding a recommendation to County Board to hold a public hearing in October. My request that I'm putting forward to all committees is to please set an agenda item in September to go through the comprehensive plan. And I'm going to give you an example. The last time the committee met, which was, things should have been finalized, and one of our committee members identified, I think, at least cell towers that were missing from the infrastructure map. So broadband, cell towers, all that kind of thing is, I think, really important to be updated. And so I think probably 2 departments that are able to identify dead zones would be highway and the public safety people. So a lot of work has gone into it, but by a very limited number of people, and county board supervisors have not been representative in that group. So I think before something goes to public hearing, a review by the committees and identify where your areas of jurisdiction are will provide a better product and a smoother adoption a public hearing and adoption come October. And the second item I have is about this evening's agenda. At last month's committee meeting here, the agenda was vague, but in attending, I learned that there is a wish to maybe modify the county's resolution regarding town's input or decision on opening county road routes for ATVs. At that time, I also asked to bring back an item I brought before this committee in public comment a few months before about having a county ordinance for UTVs, and I brought forward the Washington County model. It did not appear on an agenda, but the discussion at last month was, I think, a question to the county administrator if he still had those materials, and I got the impression it would go forward to Corporation Council for review. And up until, I guess today, I looked at the agenda last night, it said that you were going to be discussing an ATV ordinance. And now today, when I looked at the agenda, it says resolution. So I understand that maybe there's really nothing to act on tonight, but I'm going to again request that this committee address a county ordinance. There is no law enforcement, essentially, and towns are having lots of problems, but you never hear about it. And I most especially think if the town or if the county is not going to be having an ordinance or anything else, that's especially important for the towns to still have that control. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to make comments to the committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to the minutes of last month's meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion. Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Kinsley to approve the minutes of last month's meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Go to number 8, Highway Commissioners Report.
Okay, so I sent the commissioner's report. Everyone should have a copy of that. Since I sent it, there are some changes and or updates to the report. The pre-construction, and here I know that we didn't know what the date of the pre-construction conference for the County Road E Bridge is. That date has been set. It's Thursday, August 12th, tomorrow, 1:00 p.m. It's teleconference only. They have changed the start date. The start date will be sometime in the week of August 16th. And then we had a vacancy noted in here for flagger position, and we did fill that position. That individual will be starting Monday, August 19th. But our current flagger is leaving. I'm sorry, what did I say, August 19th? August 16th is Monday, August 16th. Our other flagger is leaving August 19th, so we're still gonna be short one flagger. And then one of our 2 mower operators gave his notice, and his last day is August 19th. So we're gonna be down 1 flagger and 1 mower operator. And as I mentioned up earlier in my report, as a result of this, we've had to park the mowers at times. If you drive around the county, you'll see we're way behind. So just so you know, if you get any complaints, it's the same problem everyone's having. It's staffing. We just can't get anyone to work for us. So I believe, Tom, I read somewhere maybe that we're looking at another county is doing a salary study or a study to see what LTEs are. I believe it's Washburn County. I think Rose had it in her report. So we may look, we're going to have to do something. We have to do something because we can't operate at the level we're operating right now. The work is not getting done. And so if it means having to increase our wages to try and entice people to work for us, I'm sorry, we're going to have to do that. I think that's what the other counties are experiencing. Hopefully, Tom, that study will prove that out. And I believe it was Washburn County was mentioned at our last highway commissioners meeting. So
Yeah,
we're not
there's at
alone in
least
this.
2 of them that are contemplating studies. We've had this discussion in every committee meeting, I think, this month on, the shortage of workers throughout the county. And it's not just, the restaurants, the bars, and the retail establishments, it's the county as well. We've got other vacant positions in other departments. We had one department head come in and say, hey, I only got 3 applications for my position. It's like, well, you're lucky to get 3 because most positions we have, maybe we get 1 or 2 at the most. So, it's not just a wage thing. In your positions, it might be a wage thing, but in other positions throughout the county, where, there's credentials required for specific jobs, and there's just not workers to fill those positions. So it permeates throughout the whole entire county. Not just one department, but not just the county, but.
And I'll add, it's not unique to Sawyer County based on discussions with other highway commissioners. It's around our whole region. It probably could be around the whole state, but I'm only privy to the information of our Northwest region. Everyone's in the same boat.
Right.
So, okay. And then the final thing I had was, we started.
Gary, I had a question,
Yeah.
Chairman, on your report. When you do the Highway E bridge, are you going to detour traffic then or continue 1 lane?
No, it won't be 1 lane. It'll be shut down. The detour, the unofficial detour will be thoroughfare road. The detour that will be signed is going to be, and I'll find out about that tomorrow, but it's going to be a lengthy detour. It'll be probably out and around 27 to E to N. It's going to
You
be.
can't detour to thoroughfare, can you? A town road? You have
No,
to,
we're
you
not
have to
using it.
detour to a
It's
state
not a
highway.
detour, Dale, wink, wink.
Oh.
The locals are all gonna. The locals are all gonna do it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure.
So anyway, we started paving on County Road K. We've had nothing but problems. We have been shut down twice with the weather, so both mornings we got rained out. We had a very close call yesterday morning, and I'm sure a lot of people in the room have heard about the 4 golfers that were hit on Big Fish.
Yeah.
We were 1/2 a mile north of there, and I actually saw the lightning bolt come down. And it was an eye opener for us, and it's really ironic because this year when we had our mine safety training, it was through the County Mutual. We had the MSHA, mine safety. They had so much on weather and safety and lightning. Like we had like 3 or 4 modules that we went through on it. And I thought, geez, they're really beating a dead horse on this one. Well, you know, here it is. And it was a wake up call for us. So, and then twice, believe it or not, yesterday and today, both shut down on time of use, peak alert, even though it was what, hit 80 degrees today. So when that happens, the plant shuts us down at 2:00 p.m. That's it. So we are going to continue on tomorrow. We're going to have a small crew finishing driveways and roadway entrances on Friday. But like I said, it'll be a smaller crew, just paver operators, a couple of trucks. Get back on schedule because right behind that, we've got WK Construction coming in to mill portions of County Road B where we have curb and gutter. And then, but their unit is too big to do our 2 bridges on the Round Lake Narrows and Chief River. So Monarch Paving is bringing in a smaller 4-foot milling machine to do that. So the 2 companies will coordinate. So we're working on that project. And then our final one is County Road E. So it's moving along pretty good. Things are going really well.
Gary, were we awarded that Highway B multimodal? We were.
That's what it's
When is that?
being done under.
Oh, okay.
That's the one. That's a reimbursement program though. That's one we went up as a co-sponsor with LCO.
Yep.
I had sent you an email a couple months back, just giving you a heads up. Make sure you keep the money ready. It was the tribe's commitment was 80-some thousand, I think.
And to follow that, we had BIA Roads Department in our office today, and Cameron and Dave Donahue, they talked about the BIA funding to the Highway E Bridge.
Yes.
So how do you invoice the tribe then to get that money, or when is that money due to you?
I can't recall. Last time we did it was on the landing bridge. And I have to look back at my records. I don't think we had to do anything, but
Because I know that money's earmarked for that
Yeah.
Highway E Bridge.
It should
Like
be
130.
announced, the county get interest.
137. I think.
yeah.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Chairman.
Ms. Rolls.
Just, I think it's important to remember, Gary's talking about these lightning strikes, which are nothing to take glibly. And MSHA regulations say you truck up after every lightning strike, after every thunder roll for half an hour until the last one. So when Gary says, you know, my guys are trying to get this done, take into consideration, they are following the rules as best they can and still trying to do the best they can for the taxpayers. I think it's hard.
It is. The first time we shut them down, we were north on 27 at Smith Creek or Smith Lake Culvert on 27 North, and we shut the project down. We found out that on K North, they didn't even get any rain. Yet, if you looked at it, and then Derek and I were talking about it before the meeting, it tracked north. It was coming, and then it kind of tracked north and hit, and it really slammed Bayfield County. But we didn't have it. But then the second time, when the lightning bolt hit, we still had 2 loads of asphalt that were in the silo at the blacktop plant. You have to take them, 2 loads. So what do? Do you take them and dump them out behind the county shop at whatever, $50-some a ton?
No.
You know, so.
So
Dale, you bring up a good point. It is a tricky,
It's
it's a
tough.
tough game to try and I know my superintendent was extremely stressed out. So. Anyone else have any other questions?
Moving forward, letter B, ATV UTV resolution discussion, possible action. There's been some changes in this. We had an ordinance. I wasn't comfortable with it. Didn't know enough about it. I've had some people contact me regarding it. I just assume table this so we can get more information because I want to make a good decision. I don't want to sit here tonight and try to make a decision when I don't know enough about it.
Was that a motion, Mr. Chairman?
No, it's a suggestion.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have to worry about a second for confirmation. I got calls on it too. And the impetus was towns should have a kick at the cat. Towns should be included. You know, they're the closest to the ground on where my first meeting here at this committee, we approved double C as an open route. And I was, my friend Don Rotex here, we talk to each other all the time. I was adamantly opposed to double C. Wasn't my bailiwick, it got approved, whatever. But at the same time, I think towns need the ability to not just chime in. Towns chime in on rezones, they chime in on Board of Appeals cases, and in a lot of cases, they're ignored. And I think ATVs are one of those things that we should really give the towns a little bit more latitude. My opinion, that's what I would kind of promulgate for the future.
You look at me for something?
Well, you had some conversations.
Yeah.
today.
I'm gonna take off my commissioner hat, put on my chairman, Town of Hayward hat. It was discussion last night at our meeting, echoing the same thoughts that Dale just said. Town of Hayward has a very good process, really good approval process, and it involves, oh, we got our town planning commission chair right here behind it. She was the one that made the comments. So we've got a real good process. And I'll give you an example. Say if we opened up from Peninsula Road on to K North and continue on to Mosquito Brook. Peninsula Road and K North and Peninsula Road and Mosquito Brook. Part of our approval process is that we want Don Rotec or whoever the sponsor club is to make contact. We want to query these people, find out what is your opinion on the trail, you know, instead of just approving it. And that's what we went with, and that's what Town of Hayward has. And we don't want to lose that right on County Road. I'm just using K as illustrative on County Road K. I mean, so yeah, we talked about people on Peninsula. We turned the corner on K, and heck with that, and then we go back, start knocking doors on Mosquito Brook. So as a Town of Hayward, we would be opposed to losing any control over, you know, the dual approval process.
Mr.
Well, I don't
Chair,
want to take it. Go ahead, Mark.
yeah, I got my hand up, but I'll lower it now. I don't know if I'm mistaken, but I thought the towns had some say in the trails to begin with. Is that not how our guidance goes?
Presently, that's the way it's set up. We take recommendations from the town, they can deal with the highway commissioner, they bring it to the committee.
Okay. And I, as the rest of the people there, I believe, would like to see that continue, but the town does have say in it.
But the problem Supervisor Elwood we had was 1 to 2 townships said they were not going to take any action where the speed limit was greater than 35 miles an hour. So that is a wrench in our resolution, which calls for a dual approval process. That's why we were coming before the committee to see what type of resolution. I mean, possibly even taking away, that was one of the options. It was to just have a county approval in these situations. And
I do recall that, and I have been also approached by people about it, and I know we've got to, I agree with Mr. Kinsley that we have to table this and discuss it more, find out more.
Is that a motion, Mr. Howie?
Okay, I'd make a motion that we table the, let's see, what is that now? I'm sorry.
Letter B, ATV, UTV resolution.
Thank you. The letter B, ATV resolution. Thank you for bringing that up.
Motion by Mr. Howick, second by Mr. Peters to table. Comments, Mr. Schuman.
Did we not ask for a legal opinion? And was there a legal opinion given?
Yes, we did have that reviewed, and Gary talked extensively with legal counsel about it. We did have a resolution prepared that kind of outlines what your discussion is tonight, and that didn't make it on the agenda. So I think it's proper not to take action until you review and see if this resolution does match your intentions, or you can change it to match your intentions if it does not. But that's where we're at.
Tom, could I comment on what my concern was? As far as,
Please.
so my concern when Rebecca and I had, like Tom said, we had extensive conversations on this, but my question was, where would this route live? When I say live is, so for instance, if we're doing North M and Town of Draper approves it or whatever, then we don't have a resolution or ordinance on ATV routes. We allow the towns or the municipality to attach that to their town ordinance. So my question was, if one of these two townships or both these townships said no, and we just said, okay, we're still going to approve it even without your, where is it going to live? Where is that going to be held in our documents? We don't have that right now currently. That was kind of a concern that I think that's something we have to look at going forward.
Okay, I'll open up the audience if they want to comment. State your name, please.
Thank you. Joan Cervenka, I'd
3
like to,
minutes.
sorry?
3 minutes or less,
Thank
please.
you, yes. I just basically, I'm very much for the people who are directly impacted by ATV routes to at least be cognizant and advanced aware of anything coming in their way. I know as town chair people, you often hear the results of any action after it's done, people become emotional. And the reason why the ordinance in the town of Hayward got scripted to contact all residences, not just taxpayers and not just town members, but all residents along the potentially affected routes, is people can build consensus, and we take that into consideration at the town of Hayward. People are aware of it. Some people even want a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit on their roads because they're short dead-end roads with limited traffic. But hearing from the people, I believe, is a representative need. People don't squawk until they're directly affected. It's very important.
Thank you. Anybody else care to speak?
Jenny.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jenny Chavez. I'm a member of the town board for the town of Round Lake. And a couple of things I wanted to say. The town of Round Lake does have a resolution that we just approved this last January regarding ATV process. And that is the process that's attached to the ordinance on how to recommend and request routes. And it includes a procedure for going out and talking with residents and getting their feedback. So that's one thing. The other thing is Rolf Hansen, our chair, was not able to be here tonight. He sent a letter to me that I was planning on reading in. I'm not going to read this in now if this is going the way it sounds like it's going, but just I want to give you the opening paragraph. This is Rolf Hansen speaking. I heard about this hearing yesterday, and due to short notice, I'm unable to attend in person. I'm deeply troubled by the proposal before you this evening. Here's why. For the past 17 years, I've been a Round Lake board member. We've juggled the various interests of user groups in the town at the town level. Much discussion and weighing of issues has gone into this, particularly in respect to improving trails and feeder roads for ATV, UTV recreational users. Working with the Sawyer County ATV UTV Alliance, we've identified a system and built it out over time. The Alliance doesn't always get everything they want, and we've made concessions. We get it done transparently at the town level, and it works well.
Very good.
Would you repeat your name again, please?
Ginny Chavez,
And could you spell that for me?
GINNYCHAVEK. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Tim Davison, Muskie Snow Club, a resident of Hunter Township. And I guess the only reason we are here is because Hunter Township refused to discuss it. And it would have been brought before your committee anyhow, if they would have approved it and or Round Lake would have approved it. All we are looking for is direction. In the past, Hunter Township has required all the citizens along the road to be aware of the opening of a road. And we did get that when we did CC. We had 87% approval of that. And so they adopted that policy. I believe it's also that way on B. I can't say for sure, but I believe that is. But all we want is a direction we need to go to get a yes or a no or a policy we not want to adopt.
Right. Thank you. Just Mr. Rotex next.
Don Rotek with Sawyer County Snowmobile ATV Alliance. Last month, they didn't say anything about it, and I've caught some flack about it from the town chairman who thought that I was trying to go around the townships. It is not my intention at all to go around the townships. I agree with what's all being said here, that the townships need to first kick at the cat on it. The circumstances, though, was that Town of Hunter again did not want to follow that process. And so what do we do with the township that wants to say neutral on it? So I just want to say is I agree with the process right now, but we need something there in case we do have another township that does not want to follow through with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, state your name. Go ahead, please.
Laura Rosk.
You're muted.
How about now?
Yep.
Okay. I guess we have to take some responsibility for precipitating this entire thing going on again now. However, just as a little quick background, what happened was the section on County B is repeatedly brought before us to open up. And Gary Geddard and I have talked for years about, and Gary was consistently on my side, that it was probably a very unsafe idea to open that section of County B, and suddenly that changed. So at that point, when it was brought to us again before the Alliance, our thoughts were that, you know what, we're not even supposed to be making those decisions over 35 miles an hour. We've already indicated plainly and succinctly that we don't feel it's a good idea, and it keeps coming back and it keeps coming back. So the reason we chose to take no action last time was because the time before, when it was brought back to us, we asked for the Alliance to please investigate some other possibilities on that section of road. Perhaps contacting private landowners or other avenues of being able to access between a couple of resorts, which is basically what this affects. So we contacted them again, and there had been no research done into that. So we declined to take, our action was no action, and we felt that was the appropriate response. We don't want that to be taken as the idea that we don't want input, because that is not the case. This particular stretch of road is particularly problematic for a lot of reasons. So again, this is basically how this all started, because we said our action is no action. So from there on, and what I had told them was, you need to talk to the county. We need direction, and maybe not just a resolution that doesn't really address all the issues involved. I think we need to be leaning towards ordinances that address all of the issues that will be involved, so we have a lot more direction to take. Thank you.
Did you say there's something else?
Mr. Helwig and Kay Wilson.
Good evening. I want to address the issue that Don just brought up. I think that because he didn't get his way with the town, he's going to the county to override what the town felt was appropriate action for the particular route that he proposed. And I think that is totally inappropriate to disregard what the town felt was the appropriate action for their town. Thank you.
Who's the he?
Excuse me?
Who is the he you're talking about?
I felt that Don Mrotek just proposed that the county override the town, and I did not think that appropriate because he didn't get his way.
Thank you. Mr. Helwig, did you have a comment?
Yeah, yes, I did. I guess it was kind of a question for us. I just want to clarify. In our ordinance that we have, aren't all the ATV routes 35-mile-an-hour limit? And also, I was just saying defense of Mr. Mrotek, I believe he just said that he agreed with what was going on here and that he did not in any way want to make it sound like he was trying to go around the town.
No.
Please, Mr. Chair, if you could answer my question on the 35-mile-an-hour thing.
The 35-mile-an-hour, go ahead, Mr. Gephardt.
It's for highways statutorily posted greater than 35 miles an hour. So it's vehicular traffic we're talking about. The white and black signs.
Okay, so
Like for instance, Highway B
Mhm.
is 55 miles an hour statutory speed limit. As our majority of our county roads, unless we've enacted a speed ordinance. So, but you are correct. Most of our roads are 35 miles an hour or less posted for ATV, UTV travel.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion?
I just wanted to clarify for Mr. Helwig that one of the issues is that the county does not have a county ordinance. And that's what I'm hoping the committee will address.
Thank you. Mr. Helwig.
Just a comment, I did email the resolution that we were working on prior to your discussion. So it's a base resolution that you can look at, and then if this goes on the next agenda, they'll give you something to start with, if you so choose to go in that direction.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Yes.
It was postponed to a date or not?
Hasn't been postponed at all.
The motion was to table, so.
To table indefinitely, or?
Well, it should be postponed. It should not be tabled because if we table it, it has to be discussed tonight. So it should be postponed rather than tabled. That's my understanding of Robert's rules. The postpone, if I may modify my motion to postpone until September.
Just a moment, please.
Mr. Chairman, my wife is forcing me to go to Kodiak Island for 2 weeks and I'll be here for September. Could we delay it till October meeting? And that also, I think, would give Rebecca a little bit more time. And I know some of the background on Rebecca's thing. She's working with another county. And she was really hard pressed to get this working on it. And it'll give us some time and maybe get some more input. Or else I could Zoom from up in Alaska, but there's a 3-hour time difference.
Still don't feel bad.
Then Mark Helwig make the motion.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Yes, I would amend that or postpone it until the October committee meeting.
thank you. So postpone it to the October meeting by Mr. Helwig, second by Mr. Peters. Is that clear? Yes.
Claire?
Just, I hate postponing, tabling, anything like that without direction. Direction for staff, direction for us. What do we want to know that's going to be different in October than it is today?
Can I say something on Mr. Olson's statement?
Oh, Mr. Helwig, that's a good point. So I hope that we have a resolution and we're looking at ordinances by then, so we can put them on the agenda so we can address the items in front of us.
Thank you.
Mr. Helwig.
I'm sorry, I just had to unmute myself real quick. No, thank you, Mr. Chair. You did a fine job on that. Thank you.
Now we have the motion and a second to postpone until October. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you, audience. We all have things to learn. We'll try to continue to learn so we can move forward with it. Thank you. Highway, fund balance, number C, letter C.
Everyone, any questions on the fund balance? Just a couple of things to note. We've got a good balance in our road construction. General maintenance, we've only got, I believe, one check-in so far for transportation aids. And incidental labor, which is that fringe benefit rate we charge to ourselves, the state and locals, to recover our fringe benefits. At this point in the year, you can see last year we were almost $60,000 behind. This year we're $26,000 ahead, so we've over recovered, which is a good thing. It's a continual thing that rolls, so our good comes with us and our bad comes with us. So when you have a negative, then you have to increase your rate for that year. But then if you have positive, then that's taken off your rate, and it's total fringe benefits divided by total labor, and then you factor in all these other little things like this, carryovers, etc. So that's actually a pretty good thing, and especially this time of the year, because when we usually recover is towards when we're doing snow and ice, and getting into a part of our construction, which we're just right now doing. I mean, so we're working on one road. We've got 2 more roads, and that B project is going to be a lot. That's a 600-mile project. We also have a whole bunch of work for the state. Supposed to be replacing all the culverts on 27 North from Hayward up to the Bayfield County line. So we've got a lot of work. We've got a full plate.
Thank you. Any questions for Gary? Good job up there, Gary. Thank you. We'll move forward to number 10, courtroom remodel update. Gonna check.
Yeah, I'll give a brief introduction here. We've got Jack Bloom on the line. He is our architect from Venture Architects working on the courtroom remodel project. And he's going to give us an update on some of the things that we've been working on for your attention here. So just to give you a brief history here, we've been meeting with staff. There's some meeting minutes on these design meetings that we've had. The minutes for those meetings are included in your packet, and it tells you, who participated in these meetings and what we discussed. So at the current time, we're working with Venture Architects and our construction manager, Myron Construction, to develop the schematic design that Myron will be using to give us our first cost estimate on where we're at with this project. So based on these discussions, and we've had a lot of them between the sheriff's staff, the court staff, other people affected within the courthouse, clerk of court, other people down this hallway, as far as the functionality of the rooms that we're designing to make sure that they will meet the purposes, because we get one shot at this, and so we want to make sure that we have all the workflow going in the correct manner, and that the public is safe, the prisoners are safe, the jurors are safe, and everyone has security in mind, and it's a functional space that we'll be designing. So Jack will be talking about the design as it currently stands and the features and the rooms that we've got going to Myron Construction. And so Jack, if you want to share your screen at this time and kind of go over the items that we have discussed, and then we'll open it up for questions from the committee as well to see if there's any other things they want to get some information on.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to be part of today's meeting. Does everybody see the screen? See a drawing on the screen?
Yes, thank you.
All right, fantastic. So as Tom mentioned, we're at a point where we're maybe, to really oversimplify things, we're at about a third point of the design process, and we call this first third schematic design. And so what we've done is, as Tom mentioned, we've talked to all the users that will be affected by the alteration and the addition, and gotten feedback from them about sizes and shapes and adjacencies and those sort of things. And a lot of it, honestly, was a confirmation of what we had done in the study that was performed earlier in the year. So confirmation and a little bit more thought on how things go together. So the point of it is to provide Myron Construction with basic drawing information and a narrative that includes what our thoughts are about the construction of the building, which will give them an idea of how to give their first estimate, just to kind of gauge the temperature on where we're at with budget. So what I'll show you about with this package, and I'll be pretty brief about it, just kind of gives you an overview of what we've put together, is a set of drawings and then a narrative called the basis of design. And our other alternative goal with this is to basically show everybody that's in the user groups what we've heard, and sort of get a sign off from them that everything is kind of headed in the right direction. And that allows us to then move to the next phase, which gets into a little bit more detailing and more design development, which is the name of the next phase. So I'll get started on this. So as you see, we have a cover sheet with a set. One of the larger tasks that we have, especially in this project, is very specific for this, is we've to kind of nail down our code compliance and make sure that what we're doing is compliant, so that we don't run into any issues later on. This building, because it's an infill project and it's not a sprinklered building, we're limited a little bit and need to provide, basically, the way the code looks at it as, and I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here. If you see these lines with the 3 on them, that is a firewall. That basically segregates the segments of the building. So if there would happen to be a fire in any of the segments, the fire would be isolated to that segment. So you're limited then in square footage, but everything that we're looking to do fits within the square footage that we need. So we've got our own sort of fire area here in the addition that is the infill, separate from the alteration area. And then a lot of other code compliant information is provided here. And then this is basically a kind of an big overall view of the entire building, the jail and the current courthouse and government building. Shows which we have, and then what we would be adding in here on the left side. And then on the right side, it's just maybe something at a little enlarged scale of the addition here. And what we've done in this schematic design also, you see a lot of furniture, and it may look like it's pretty far along, but really the purpose of inserting the furniture is to make sure that our spaces work. Many times we do it with our offices to make sure that flow works well, and that's the purpose of that. At this point, it's really for reference only, though. Tom, tell me if I'm going too fast or too slow. I'll keep going though. And then the next sheet is 1/8-inch basic plans of both parts of the project, which is on the left side the north courtroom, which is the addition, and the south courtroom, which is the alteration. And for those that I'm not sure who all is in the know on some of the specifics of this, but the addition essentially is a new courtroom, similar in size to the existing courtroom, but slightly larger though, and then the support spaces for the judiciary. And then in the back of house, there's a connection, which is really a big part of this project, which is being able to have prisoner movement within the building in a secure area. So this corridor that wraps the building allows the sheriff to bring prisoners, put them in a holding cell near the new courtroom, or walk them past the new courtroom and put them in a holding cell near the altered courtroom. And then that altered courtroom is on the right diagram here. This is it. Space is a bit at a premium, but we were able to find a way to get this to work out where we could ramp up and make fully accessible the judge's bench and all of the court individual seating areas. So that was a win there. So support spaces are also in this space. Next drawing is a roof plan, pretty simple and standard. We're looking at a flat roof for the majority of the addition, and then because we want to provide some identity to the building and to the entrance of the building, we have a hipped roof at the boardroom area and the conference room area. Next are some elevations. I guess I would say, because we're a couple of weeks removed from this package and have received some comments, I would say don't put a lot of weight in these elevations. The colors didn't really render very well, and there's a lot of stone on the building, and I don't know that we're going to do that. So it's maybe if you look at it in terms of shapes only at this point, and that'll be part of the design development part of what we're doing. And then the last of the architectural drawings are basic building sections. The one thing I want to point out here is we raised the top of this court. This is the new courtroom. If you look at a section cut through that courtroom, and we do have that raised from the rest of the building, which allows us to get some natural daylight at a high level that will not alter the views of the court proceedings. I think we're really excited that that's an opportunity to provide some natural daylight in the space. Lastly, a couple of images, and again, we're very early in the process, so I want to put a bit of a disclaimer on it. But the layout of the courts is really pretty well solidified. So the finishes may be altered, and television placement, flag placement, things like that may all change. But generally, the courtroom layout is pretty much agreed upon by all of the users. So this would be the north courtroom, which is the addition. Laid out exactly like the south courtroom, except for it is flipped, where the bench will, you'll see in a second, the south courtroom where the bench is on the opposite side. 4 tables for the attorneys. Generally, it will be a 2-table setup, but there's an allowance for expansion for 4 tables. Next drawing, or next sheet rather, is the existing courtroom. And I failed to mention earlier that the way you see the courtroom now, we are going to turn it on its end, essentially, and flip it so that the judge's area is it's accessible from the back of house, which is where their offices will be, and those types of things. So that was a necessary flip. But these are some views of the existing courtroom, altered now to be flipped. And then the final set of images would be the boardroom. This is a space we've talked quite a bit about in terms of how to segregate it. There's a desire to have some fixed seating where the board would sit, and then have a lot of functionality on the south half of that, which would allow the county to be able to use it during meetings during the day, and possibly also provide a curtain, a panel, I should say, that we could segregate both sides. Although I think at this point, because there isn't a lot of functionality or a lot of movement, allowability to move the setup of the board area, we may not do that. We may just keep it one big open space. We're still working on that. Then find the last few sheets. 3 more sheets are, or I should say 4 more sheets, are a very general mechanical layout, just to kind of show some of the ideas that have been brought forward. Next one is a zoning plan. And then a structural diagram sheet, which is kind of the first kick at the cat from the structural engineer to kind of identify how the structure, what direction the structure will go, and the most efficient way to build a building from a structural perspective. Okay, and finally is a site plan. There is some site work that is planned. What we would call maybe the east parking lot, the asphalt is not in good condition, so we know that we need to replace it. We will do probably some minor alterations to the walkway, but generally the layout of that parking lot will stay the same. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here because of the entrance. We really want to identify this as the building entrance. So we will probably provide somewhat of an entry plaza area for people to congregate both before and after court proceedings. And so that's an outdoor plaza, and then we have adjacent accessible parking. And then on the opposite side, as you know, we're cutting the street off here. So we will be rebuilding this as a parking lot, mostly for deputy parking, but will also be available, I believe, for public parking. And then that also then gives you direct access to the jail entrance, which is right here. I think that is basically sums up the status of the plans. I do want to go back to one drawing and kind of identify the security access. I've talked a little bit about making the having a pronounced building access point, and that would be right here. So this is the this would be, let me make sure I've got this straight. This is in front of the existing courtroom, and then the new courtroom is to the north of that. But we spent quite a bit of time talking about having a secure entrance. So we do have security, a security checkpoint inside the vestibule, or inside the lobby, I should say, and then also closing that doorway here so that anybody that's in this new and altered area has been through a security checkpoint, and anybody that's been out of that area has not. And so it segregates the two groups. And if you have a business at all in the courtroom area, you would need to go through the security checkpoint. But if you're not, then you have free reign to basically, you can use this conference room. You can I should change what I just said a little bit. This door is the security checkpoint. So it allows people to come in and out of this conference room that are using the rest of the building, and it kind of regulates that through this corridor. So those are the plans, and I'll really go through the basis of design fairly quickly, just because it's 57 pages. But I'll kind of hit on the basics of it. It's a narrative. If you've ever been part of a building project and you've seen a specifications manual, that can be hundreds of pages, and they identify all of the materials in the building and how to build the building with those materials. This is a very watered down version of that. And the goal of this is to really just identify the materials so that Myron can, so they're using the right materials when they're doing their cost estimating, and they're understanding the systems that are being brought forward. And it isn't something that is, gospel for the rest of the project. In many cases, we do refer to it, refer back to it, and take a look at what we had agreed to, but that doesn't mean things can't change as you go along. But it's a good point of reference. So we have a description of the building and some of the structural information. I'll just kind of go through this really quickly. Some of the materials of the exterior are noted here. The roof cover, what that material is. Then we get into a little bit of the interiors. Just standard information about the fire ratings, like I had mentioned before. Very kind of basic information there. Mechanical gets a little bit more in depth because of the nuances of the systems. Talks a little bit about the desired output from the systems, how the air will be distributed through the building. Controls, which can have a large sway in costs. Then we move to electrical systems, telecommunications, and lighting. Just again, kind of background information that helps with pricing, and gives us all as a group a reference point. So you're free to kind of review that, and if you have any questions, Tom can forward them to me as well. Telecommunications, some of the audio, video, and door hardware, things like that. And then lighting, obviously we do everything in LED now, but this kind of gets into a little bit about what's required for code reasons, and then some of the other ideas. And then plumbing, we are not sprinklering the building. So fire protection kind of gets pulled off a little bit. There's a little bit in there about possibly sprinklering the holding rooms, because that is required by code, but otherwise just general kind of fixture types and how we plan to provide water and drainage to the building. There's the fire protection. So civil talks a little bit about site and how we provide the utilities to the site, You've seen this plan, just some background information as well. And then landscaping as well. And then there is, if you're interested in going through this does go through a little bit about some of the finishes that we plan on putting in the building. It's a start. There may be some things that will change, but it's basically it has a lot to do with what our experience is in a courtroom or courthouse rather, about the level of finishes in the building. Most of it has to do with durability, quite honestly, but the types of finishes that are traditional in a courthouse. And there are a few pages of that identify the room types. Mechanical cut sheets, there are just a few of those. And then finally, there are, I believe, about 15 sheets of lighting, different types of fixtures. Again, these can change, but this gives us an idea of what we're planning on putting in the building. So Tom, I believe that's my my update. I will stop sharing my screen.
Don't stop.
Oh, I can go back, no problem.
Slide 4, please.
4 of the drawings or of the basis of design?
Yeah, right, that one right there. Can
Okay.
you zoom just a little bit?
Sure. Which left or right drawing?
It'd be our right. The
Your right.
Yeah, that
Yes.
one right there.
Yes.
Okay, my question is, if I'm looking at, looks like we have a county boardroom, an assembly room, and then a conference room.
Yes. So yes, good question. I'm not sure I heard a question, but I know what you're saying.
Well, yeah, it just seems like a lot of
Sure.
places for people to meet.
Yeah.
Is it really necessary,
Well,
I guess?
the idea with the assembly room is, you know, the boardroom is necessary. What we determined during the study, and we want to make sure though that it isn't just used at 6:30, you know, every other Wednesday or whatever, you know. So we want to make sure that it's amenable for 8 to 5 types of meetings. So that's kind of the reason for a very functional south half of this room. Again, we're still kind of developing the north half. You know, if it is deemed that we can make that functional, we will as well, just to kind of give more options. The conference room came about from a conversation with what we're doing with veteran services. And maybe Tom can get into that a little bit more specifically, but we lost a conference room in the building because of where we're going to relocate veteran services. So this location seemed to make a lot of sense because it's in the addition, but it allows access by everybody in the building. You know, it allows access by the non-secure group on the south side, and it also allows access by the secure group on the north side. So we found this location to be very functional, and conference space is in fairly high demand. So that's the reason for the conference spaces.
Jack, I can expound on that a little bit. So, you know, the veteran space we're looking at is utilizing the existing assembly room, making 2 offices and kind of a waiting area in the middle, which we've gone over with Gary in veteran services, his space needs and whatnot. But if we can, you know, and that's assuming that we take out the existing veterans building, which has some mechanical issues and whatnot. So the optional plan is to remove that building, move veteran services into the existing assembly room. And so the labeling of those other 2 rooms are kind of misleading. You know, the assembly room is actually that new conference room. So that would be the new assembly room. And you know, the public portion of the boardroom could be utilized as a conference room as needed. So that would be configurable to accommodate public for, you know, committee meetings and board meetings, but it also could be used as conference space if need be, you know, if the new assembly room was busy. And we do have times where there's, you know, a need for more than 1 conference room in this building. So that accommodates veteran services, it accommodates you know, replacing an assembly room with a better security and able to use that room for night meetings without having the entire building open. And then it also allows us, the way the courtroom is laid out, if we did need other space, the jury room that's in the existing courtroom could be used by staff as well if need be. So we actually do gain some conference space, which is good because there are times, especially like when they do jury trials and they need space to put people before they get into the jury. I forget what that process is called, but there's space needs for that when they do that. And we've learned through COVID that the existing space that we were trying to utilize wasn't adequate for that purpose as well. So that's kind of the summary on that. And Mark, I'll turn it back to you if you had additional questions.
Well, yeah, I kind of do, I guess. I just, far as conference room, if the boardroom could also be used as far, and then I just don't see why you couldn't be using the conference room, assembly area, whatever it's going to be called, right there, south of the boardroom. No, not that one, right? Yes, sir, right there. And the conference room that it's got listed there could be used for something else. When, like you say, if need be, we don't have, if there's not a trial, that the jury room could be used. I'm sorry, guys. It just seems like to me anyways, a lot of use for conference areas where it could possibly use for something else. Just a thought, guys.
Thank you. Mr. Olson.
I'll try to be fast, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bloom, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thanks.
I noticed some of the notes. I saw Mr. Hagberg had recommended real stone as opposed to cultured stone. I'm sure that price is significant in difference. And I have to absolutely agree with him because 3/4 of Sawyer County is made up of rock. So I am happy that he said to use real stone.
Are you willing to deliver, by the way, or not?
I have tons, and I have a 1-ton pickup.
All right, we'll take it.
That is, I love the idea. I just think it lends the tenor with what we've had here for the last 150 years. So now, when you spoke about all the users that are on board with this, all the users of this aren't paying for it, and our taxpayers are. So I want to make sure that we are doing well and we're making good decisions here. Mr. Helwig's comments about the county board and assembly room that's being proposed and the conference room, having been around for at least a drink of water and maybe a little bit more, it seems like we're always short of big space. And I'm wondering about taking the plan and talking to that user group and seeing if maybe the entrance could be bumped down to eliminate the conference room. The conference room space could be added to the county board assembly room, even if it has a curtains or something like that, a mechanical wall to cut that off, because we always seem to be short of big space. As you look at the county board and assembly room, it is 1/3 of the size of one of the courtrooms. Sometimes we have heated issues that have hundreds of people. We've had to use both of our current courtroom as well as our assembly room just to house people and have half of them available online. Just a thought from me. And the very last thing was under your plan, C1030 still specifies electric hand dryers, even though I saw the recommendation was not to have those in most of the units. So that was all. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you. Yes, we've actually already updated the basis based on that comment.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Any other questions, Sherman?
Yeah, are we still within budget, Tom? That's what we got designed here?
Well, that's what we're going to find out. That's the purpose of creating all of these documents so that Myron can then take all of the materials and figure out costing. So that's the next step of the process, and Jack can probably expound on that one.
Yeah, so they're due to present that to us on the 24th. You know, this is the first, I believe, of 3 cost estimates that they'll give us. They'll give us one at the end of each of these phases. So, you know, if I can explain it, the first one has a margin of error like this because we're still talking about pretty general types of systems, and then the next one gets smaller and the next one gets smaller. So I believe that we usually put a 10% contingency in the first one, and by the time we get done with the estimates, we're down to 5 because we have a pretty good feeling of where we're at. You know, we're in a it probably needs to be mentioned, we're in a crazy bidding climate right now. So and for that, it's great that Myron's on board with us because they are, you know, they're experts at this. So if we had a less experienced contractor, I'd be a lot more worried about it. But they'll do a great job. But it's a really challenging time to do cost estimating, especially if you know, this will be bid roughly in December or so, and that may only seem like 5 or 6 months away. But 5 or 6 months ago, steel was twice as much as it is now, and you know, things have really been volatile. So that's a little bit of my soapbox on the cost estimate. But they'll take a look at every cost category. They're very diligent with that, and we'll get a really good idea of where we're at. And then as we've talked, if you know, it turns out that we're over budget, we've already talked about spaces that we may be able to modify to take some money out of the project. So that kind of goes hand in hand. We don't, you know, it's not going to be a starter if we find out that we're over budget. We've already kind of talked about some ideas. And honestly, and one more thing on that, it's kind of a natural, I should say, it's a natural dynamic in our projects to maybe go a little beyond. I shouldn't say beyond, but you know, shoot a little bit higher maybe at the beginning of these projects, and get what you really want, knowing that you can scale back if you have to scale back. That's kind of the general process of how we do this. So that's where we'll go with it.
And we have scaled some things back. You know, originally when we first met as a group, you know, we talked about the space across that the clerk of courts are in and the small courtroom and remodeling some of that. And so we've kind of put that on the back burner.
Right.
And we've got spots in child support that we may modify for Justice Point or the CJCC activity. Some of that stuff we could do in-house. You know, Tim and his staff can do some of this internal remodeling that takes it out of this project, and the cost of that becomes a little bit more reasonable. You know, and looking at the plans here, we've already modified some of these. Like there's a staff kitchenette for the judicial staff. We took that out of these drawings that you still see here. Because there will be, you know, a kitchenette within the jury room because they're sequestered and have to have their lunches there. So there is accommodations for kitchenettes within the jury room. So we eliminated, you know, some of those extra things. So, and we'll keep paring back as we need to.
Other questions? Okay. This has gone, these drawing design has gone in front of the ad hoc committee, and they approved them to move to the public works and then eventually get to the full county board. I would ask the same thing at the public works committee, that they're looking for an approval. So yeah, the overall, it looks like we're doing the right thing, move forward so we can get it to the full board.
So, Mr. Chair, I would make a recommendation to move forward at this time with the plans we have.
Would that be a motion, Mr. Hadwick, please?
Yes, I made that in the wrong vernacular. I would make a motion that we go forward with the current plans we have to the board.
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Hadwick, second by Mr. Peters, to approve the plans presently presented, knowing that there's going to be small changes, but that's the starting point to get us there. And second by Mr. Peters. Any other discussion? Yes.
If it's going to get forwarded on to the county board, and probably even for the committee here, this needs to be updated because this does have the wrong E1 power distribution. It's got the wrong the design drawings here. It's the or in the documents. It has the wrong electrical, like the. So we need the updated one that Jack sent.
But the general understanding is the majority of the stuff is what we're gonna have moving forward.
Right, oh yeah, I just meant if someone wants to, before the county board does anything, the document's not correct.
Okay, we can
Go all technical on us.
Oh, no, so I'm, other than that, we're good.
I didn't catch it. Does these drawings include the veteran service offices? Did I hear him say?
Yeah, it's not represented here, but they, I believe what the intent is to bid that as an alternate, so that, you know, if everything comes in over budget, you know, that would be one thing that we could alter or not do.
I have a comment.
Yes,
This is something was kind of brought up to me, far as, I don't know if it, what it is like, you know, let's say you go into a mall and you first, as you walk into the entrance, you see like, I don't know if you call it like a kiosk or whatever, but something that shows you where to go in the facility. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, Mr.
yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, because it's going to be a pretty big facility, and
Yeah.
so it might be something to think about.
Yeah, it's a great point. We're completing a project in Waukesha currently that has 8 courtrooms, and it's a big. It became a bigger topic than what any of us realized, because you know you can put and you know, the obvious thing is that we put some sort of board here to kind of send people in the right direction, but yeah, it's an important step. Most people that will enter this building will be entering it for the first time, and they don't know where they're going. So yeah, it's definitely something we'll have an AV consultant joining us in this phase, and those will be the types of things that we'll talk about. And you know, whether they'll be interactive or maybe not. Maybe we'll find that there just isn't enough activity to require that, but then there will just be a static display board that will show the cases that day, or where the, you know, restrooms are and all of that other stuff.
Right. It could be something like you have here where they, you know, like a piece here, a piece there, but
Right.
you guys know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but
Thank
good
you very
point,
much.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you. Great presentation, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the general plan by Mr. Alwick, second by Mr. Peters, and knowing that there still may be some things changed, but the general plan is there. So I'm gonna ask, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Motion carries to pass it on to the full county board. Thank you. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now we'll go up to number 7, Sawyer County Airport. Thank you for your patience there. Anything you want to spell out in your report, please?
The report specifically, usually I just kind of give an update about the airport that's on the report. We had a busy summer. It's been unseasonably busy, even for us. July was wild. Good, Tom will be happy. And it's always kind of been that way for us, you know, in the summertime. It really spirals out of control for a while. You know, you get run out of places to park airplanes. And then the other 9 months of the year or stronger happen. And, well, that's why the infrastructure is out there for when it's busy. I just wish it was busier for longer, but then I had to hire more people. We started back up on the terminal building today, remodeling it to contractors in the building, finishing some drywall that we had stuff. For the busy stretch, we kind of put everything on pause. So excited to wrap that up. The terminal building remodel.
Do you have a deadline when you expect that to be done?
Well, furniture and cabinets and stuff that we all ordered is sometime in September, with installs hopefully at the end of September. But we haven't tackled the bathrooms yet. Bathrooms are kind of planned for the end of the year, beginning of the year project. Having a hard time finding a contractor for the bathrooms. It's been a difficult endeavor with that. So
Getting material for it might be else.
yeah, well, then we had some issues with bathrooms because they got to be handicap accessible by the time we're done. As soon as we dive off the deep end and adjusting them. So what we've done in the building so far, just floors, and wall coverings, we haven't had to change things, but it's coming now. I heard you guys talk about it during the courtroom stuff, some of the regulations, even we have to, all of the furniture I had to order all had to be fire retardant because and certain specifications because the building doesn't have a sprinkler system. So it's been kind of an interesting process. I know we're going to talk about hangar leases next. Any questions? Anybody hear any great news about the airport you want to share?
Yeah, we will do the management plan.
No. I did talk with Pat Sanchez, and I think the best thing to do is to probably just try to hawk off another airport that's put one together and copy paste and then start adding in the information that's relevant to us. Because other airports have gone through that process quite extensively. So that's kind of the plan. I think it's going to be kind of a winter project to work on that. Hopefully by the time it's all said and done, it's a process where annually we could do something out at the airport with the various agencies, whether it's a mock incident or at least get people familiar with the airport, because a lot of times first responders, they've never been to the airport. They don't know how to get in the gates and kind of how things work. So that's kind of where my envisionment and hope is to do something like that.
Are we ready for letter B?
B, yes. Do you want to?
Tom and I talked about it. I think it came as a surprise to this committee because we had a turnover of supervisors the last time we did a project, where all of a sudden it was, hey, we're doing this project that's starting, in a year. And some of the board supervisors questioned, well, when did we ever approve this in the first place? So every so many years, we go through and we do a request to the governor's office for basically a laundry list of items that we'd like to see improvements done at the airport. It kind of goes hand in hand with our 6-year improvement plan. So what is this lockstep process of when Sawyer County requests funding for a project at the airport from the governor's office with federal funding, because it all goes through the BOA. So we send that request in, but then it might be 4 years or 5 years later when all of a sudden one of those projects in that request comes to this point. So now all of a sudden we've got a $3 million project that we're looking at. And I asked Tom, do we put this to finance to figure out, how we're going to fund it? Really, all the Bureau of Aeronautics needs is a verbal go-ahead from Sawyer County, hey, we can do consultant selection. They don't need, the Bureau of Aeronautics doesn't require a resolution. We already did the resolution when we requested the funding for those projects from the governor a few years ago.
Great.
So what I believe Tom has said is, maybe let's just draft a resolution, give the committee, the county board an opportunity to have one last discussion on the topic before money starts getting spent and we can't stop the ball from rolling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and what I wanted to do, and this is a project that will occur in 24, 25, and it's a major project for the county. It'll be a very expensive project of which, the state and feds pick up most of the tab. But just to memorialize that we are proceeding with that with a resolution so that 3 or 4 years or 2 or 3 years from now, we recognize that that's happening, because the actual budgeting for that will occur in the CIP, in a following year. So you're not encumbering funds in a future year, but you're acknowledging that this project is moving forward. So if you approve that we are going to move forward with that runway project, looking for a motion to that effect, we do have a resolution for that, which I didn't get it on the agenda, but we could present that at the board that acknowledges what we're talking about tonight, which is moving ahead with the consultant for that project.
Any questions about, the airport or the runway or the percentages? I mean, my airport report, I kind of spell it out in there too. Everything comes at a 5% cost, but $3 million, 5%, $150,000. We haven't budgeted for that right now. And I think that there's a general consensus on, trying to offset some of the airport operations and the costs of having the airport, because it's not just the annual costs of having the airport, it's whenever these big projects come up. But, there's a reason why the state puts runways at the highest priority, and we've done a really good job at the airport in recent years, working on contracts, negotiations for trying to offset the county's expenditures at the airport for having the airport. When you start talking about these big improvement projects, it's not so much, well, how much does the airport cost us? It's what does the airport bring to the county as a resource? It's a little bit different discussion than what is the annual budget, what are we bringing in direct revenue. So that's just my point, is that there's contracts at the airport that stipulate that the county also has to maintain their side of the deal too, which is maintaining the pavement surfaces at the airport. If the county never does the runway, then there's going to be problems on that side of things too.
Mr. Chair, what are we looking for? Some sort of motion to send this to the board then, or what?
Yes, to send it to the board that we're going to move forward with the project in 2024 to redo the runway.
Okay, then I would like to make a motion to send to the board that we are going to move forward with the repaving of the airport runway.
Motion by Mr. Howie to approve the runway project for 2024, second by Mr. Olson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. That goes to the full board, so everybody understands that. Thank you. Letter C, hangar lease application. Do we have the applications put together yet for us to review, or where are we at?
We don't. I put together a couple myself that are just basically a generic form, and lists the hangar or entities information. I put a clause in there that's saying if it's not a Wisconsin-based corporation that owns a hangar, that certificate of good standing is provided. I guess the bigger question is we went through a long process of nailing down what a new hangar lease at the airport is going to look like.
Great.
And that was a great step, but what we haven't really discussed is the hangar application process. Well, you pay an airport manager to do a job, and what if said airport manager comes to the board and says, hey, we have an applicant, and you know what, I don't think that this person should be allowed to get a hangar lease at the airport and lease land from the county. And that's just one scenario, a scenario where we're potentially in as we speak. How do you potentially weed out somebody who shouldn't be offered the opportunity, because there is a limited amount of space at the airport. I don't want to make more work for ourselves, but we're already kind of in that situation anyways. So we've got two hangar lessees currently that own hangars at the airport. They were well aware of our negotiations, talks about what the new hangar lease is going to be. They've requested for me, 6 months or even further back ago, an audience with whomever needs to be discussed at this level to get a new hangar lease. So they've really, I think, these two hangar owners are prime candidates. They're prime examples of what, we would want individuals or entities to use hangars for on county property. But we don't have a process in place for, how do they apply for it? So basically what I just put together was, what is your spouse's name or emergency contact, a personal note. Well, in a lot of cases, this is, legal documents and business. Personal kind of goes out the window a lot of times with that. So maybe some direction, and Tom and I haven't really been able to get together to discuss it much either. And maybe it's a Rebecca thing too.
Well, it's incumbent upon us to develop the process for the hangar lease. I think for tonight, we just wanted to make you aware that there will be two that are expiring next month and will be brought forward. As Derek mentioned, there sometimes may be reasons why an application or an applicant may not be suitable, and in order to determine that, it would have to be a, a legal reason or something that, they don't have an airplane to put in there, which is the whole purpose of having a hangar, or, something like that. So it's not, a subjective kind of thing. But those kinds of things would be brought before the board as well with a recommendation. So next month, you'll see the first two of those coming through.
So we'll work on it. That's been said.
I like the idea of the application too. So here's a question for you that, I'm just throwing it out there. What happens if you think it should be turned down, but yet they want to appeal it? Do we have an appeal process? And that might be something we need to look at also.
Well, yeah, what's my word on it? Tom and I can meet with individuals, but, oh, yeah, it's certainly interesting. It seems like we can't get through any of the stuff at the airport without some sort of issue, as of late at least, but.
Well, we all need more every day. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, Derek, 5% of 3 million is the county's cost
Yeah.
for this project?
Correct.
What is that?
150,000.
That's what I thought.
They can try to help with what
Are
happened.
you ready with that, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, we do get funding for a lot of it, but then we'll work that into the CIP, so we're aware of it.
Okay.
I don't know, I think we have a lot of customers that go, to the casino.
Okay,
Lodge
so
over
any
there.
other questions? Hearing none, thank you, Derek. Number 9, maintenance. Thank you for your patience.
Any questions on my report?
Anything stand out that you want to bring it to our attention?
Tell you nothing I can think of. It's been a lot of time on other stuff, so otherwise, current process of it being a report next month. We're trying to help get the jail ready. Been doing a lot of painting, finishing up any of the LED conversion in the jail and stuff. We're trying to get that all wrapped up because they do have their inspection on 17th, so we'll have the jail ready to go on that.
You get parts.
Can we get parts?
Yeah.
Parts are getting tough. Yeah, we're in the middle of a couple jobs right now. One is putting a mini split into the kitchen of the jail, and yeah, it's tough. Anything with copper is really getting tough. So they were kind of at a standstill on a couple projects.
Oh, go ahead.
Tim, if the Veteran Service Office comes down, or we decide it comes down, would your department be able to do that?
No, I believe, we don't have the equipment for that. And so, so I know that's going to be part of their, part of the demo plan.
Also know that Tim's very helpful in second courtroom information. He's been contributing to the meetings and he's put a lot of time in it. I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, we are.
Excuse me, I am curious though, if that building comes down, what's the plan for that space?
Pave it.
Yep.
Pave it. Thank you.
After 1 year, I'm assuming. Allow it to settle for 1 year and then pave it. Otherwise, we will have a broken blacktop parking lot.
Be our storm drainage.
That's right.
area
It's fun.
When it sinks.
Okay. Future agenda items. So we know we have stuff in the highway. We have stuff in the airport. And I'm sure Tim will bring us more stuff. Does anybody have anything specific that they want to point out to get it on the agenda?
Maybe the Oasis building, start thinking about that.
Yeah, that's something we're kind of watching.
Yeah.
But now there's been new information that's came out about that, but I don't think it's been processed yet.
Correct. Yeah.
We're going to see where that goes. Yes, that's an important item over there. Number 12, correspondence reports. Conference, anything else anybody wants to share? Hearing none. Thank you, folks. That's a long meeting, but there's lots to accomplish, and we're doing a good job. Thank you.
Good job, Chairman.